Elon, you say that Olof Palme destroyed Sweden, but let me tell you the real story. Olof Palme was the architect of a Sweden that became a beacon of social justice and equality. He expanded our welfare state like never before, improving healthcare, childcare, pensions, and housing. Thanks to Palme, Sweden had one of the world's most equal societies, with strong protections for workers and vulnerable groups alike. Palme opposed NATO, advocated disarmament and independence. He wanted Sweden to stand free and seek peace and justice globally. Palme did not want Sweden to join the European community because he feared it would undermine Sweden's sovereignty and neutrality, values he fought tirelessly to defend. Palme also firmly opposed neoliberal economics, the very economic ideology that has since ravaged the global economy, increasing inequality, austerity, and market deregulation. He fought to protect the public sector, workers' rights, and regulation of markets against the rising tide of neoliberalism. Sweden was once one of the world's most equal countries, but in secret. In 1985, the credit market was deregulated behind Palme's back. That broke our tradition of equality, unleashing unchecked banking power. Today we have insecurity, debt, and mounting division, not because of Palme, but because of people working behind the scenes against Sweden's interest. Sure, we must acknowledge that multiculturalism and refugee policies haven't always worked as hoped. It requires more realism and responsibility to hold society together. We must be honest and say that we need to find solutions for a stricter and much more sustainable migration and integration policy. Now, we must also be honest about the root of many problems beyond our borders. The US is the dominant force that has created most of the turmoil in the Middle East, Latin America, and Africa through its coups, wars, and interventions, which have artificially created the migration crisis we see today. All while the rising tide of inequality caused by neoliberalism, globalization, and corporate power only makes mistrust and division grow in our society. Olof Palme was against all of that, and so are we in MoD. Today, it's greed and supranational powers threatening our society, not solidarity. Palme fought against the Israeli occupation of the West Bank and was outspoken in his support for Palestinian rights. He invited Palestinian leaders to Sweden and was one of the few Western leaders to give a platform to their cause. Palme has often been labeled a Bilderberger and a communist by critics, but when he became prime minister, he fought fiercely against both concentrated elite power and authoritarian communism. He challenged all systems of oppression and paid the ultimate price with his life. Now, look at you, Elon. You have become a powerful gatekeeper in global conflicts by controlling Starlink, the main communication system Ukraine depends upon. Your decisions have already influenced war outcomes by selectively enabling or disabling coverage in contested regions, demonstrating how one billionaire like you can wield unprecedented geopolitical power. While warning publicly about the existential risks of AI, you simultaneously accelerate its development through your businesses, expanding AI presence in military, surveillance, and civilian spheres with little accountability. You champion transhumanism through Neuralink, aiming to blur lines between humans and machines, threatening privacy and autonomy at the deepest level, where the human being becomes nothing else but a slave to the urges of technocrats like you. You openly support Israel's military actions, aligning with geopolitical conflicts that contrast sharply with Palme's advocacy for peace and justice. You promote a technocracy inspired by your grandfather, envisioning a society where work is optional, cash disappears, AI governs, and human creativity fades, increasing surveillance and sidelining democratic control. Is your gatekeeping connected to why you defend digital ID solely for the internet at first, but then will you flip-flop and find a backdoor to implement it everywhere? You say that you are such a great libertarian, but your companies secure billions in Pentagon contracts, fueling military expansion and undermining peace efforts. You advocate the globalist carbon tax, promoted as a good thing, but which will only be used as a form of control in the context of oligarchs' ruthless capitalism that exacerbates inequality and concentrates the kind of power that you represent. Palme built Sweden on solidarity, stable institutions, justice and democracy at its core. You build power through control, profit, and technology that chips away at freedom. So who really is destroying civilization? It's not Palme. It's those who champion unchecked power, corporate dominance, and erosion of democracy. Palme's legacy is not perfect, but because no one is perfect, but it calls us to defend justice and humanity against these forces. And all the while we are focused on the problems that divide us, we focus less on the ones that exacerbate the divide and rule. People like you, Elon, who use people's fears to benefit your own political agenda. Because as long as we are divided, we cannot unite and oppose your dark visions of the future. And you know that. I am the party leader of MoD, and we stand with Palme's vision, a Sweden for all with a newly added and much more responsible migration policy. This is something we need, obviously, but most importantly, a Sweden built on fairness, a Sweden that promotes global peace and true freedom. So people doesn't have to move from their home country in the first place. And finally, a society that tries to put the human being at the center of its economic system, not a dark and dangerous technocratic transhuman dream like yours. The choice for us between Olof and you is very clear, Elon.